Today, I'm going to start off with the first series of talking about expired listings and using the auction process. Now, again, this is a pretty passive approach. In order to do so, I make sure that I give everybody an understanding of the fact that I'm just going through and giving people a low barrier to entry to try and get an appointment using Zoom calls. Now, I know that sounds a little funny. Go into the episode and listen to what I have to say. But the reality is I do see a great deal of success being had at the moment in a marketplace that is more stalled, and you've got a lot more properties that are definitely expiring, primarily because of the skill set of realtors not being able to bring their clients down to the marketplace. So again, getting a high level of appointments and being able to be efficient doing so is what I talk about today. Now, I don't dive into the exact follow-up process from there if you do get a no, but I do dive into a quick script of how do you get people's interest? How do you then quickly set up an easy, low barrier to entry appointment in order to stabilize a relationship that then can push you further into trying to get that listing? Either way, guys, this is a step one. Then we'll be going into more episodes over the next couple of months, as you know, it definitely is a trend to stay. We are getting more and more and more people approaching us using auction as a point of difference in the expired marketplace. And I think we need to make sure that we're upskilled in it. If you don't have a business that's already sustaining great growth through traditional means. Welcome to Rethink Real Estate. My name is Ben Brady, and this is a real estate podcast aimed to deliver sales strategies, marketing tips, and business insights from industry experts and myself to build a listing-focused business for the future. Let's get into it. Okay, team, welcome back to another episode of Rethink Real Estate. And one of the questions, as we can understand when the marketplace slows a little bit, that we continue to get when it comes to auctions is how do we leverage auction the best to get us more listings? Now, there was a time when we first started auctions in North America where a majority of the Harcourts network was doing expired listings. Now, obviously that dissipated as the COVID marketplace came, where the inventory levels got to a point where everything was selling. Expireds, definitely weren't something that was a good use of time because there just weren't many of them. So people, referred back to, circle prospecting and things along those lines around people's listings. Those that are very phone or pro phone, so to speak. Now, again, I really like the phone side of things from an expired perspective if ultimately you are more new to the industry. If you don't have a database yet that is building a residual income or building, residual deals every year, and I think that you've got to stem back to looking at what your C, B, A, and A plus categories are in your database, because if you've got 100 people between B and A plus, then you're probably going to generate around 8 to 10 deals or referrals a year out of just your database itself. If you don't have that, and you don't have a great connection to the people within your database, or that 10 deals or 8 deals that it's going to genuinely generate for you with people that know who you are and what you are going to do, you have to designate where is your new business going to come from. Now, the new business comes from open houses. I think that is a phenomenal way for people to come and see you, and the more that you can do, the better. But ultimately, getting on the phone and prospecting. Now, I know a lot of you are going to say that you don't want to do that. And unfortunately, I do think that COVID and that marketplace broke the spirit of most really good realtors, if I'm being honest. They don't want to get back on the treadmill or the hamster wheel or whatever you want to call it of expired listings. Now, don't get me wrong, those that are doing it at the moment are definitely taking advantage of it. We've had Rachel Ashley on the podcast, and this episode, her episode has already aired, where she talks about the expired listing side of her business, that all of a sudden she started doing it again, and all of a sudden has picked up 4 new listings using the non-distressed auction process. Because personally, I wouldn't do expired. I don't know how you do expireds, to be honest. And again, that could just be me not having any experience in it, but I don't know how you do expireds without having actual point of difference. You're genuinely just offering the same thing that the previous agent did. You're genuinely offering, maybe new photos, maybe a new price point. But the reality is, I don't know how you could walk into that listing presentation knowing that all you're trying to do is secure the business in order to get them to drop their price. So at the end of the day, I think auction is a distinct advantage in order to have a point of difference when you are approaching people to talk to them about their listing being on the marketplace for a period of time. Now, those that want a little bit more of a passive approach to it, that don't like the idea of calling strangers, why don't you call other realtors and say that, hey, there's this process that I've done, or there's this process that I know of, or whatever it is, and ultimately introduce the auction concept. But the one thing that we did a couple of years ago now, we introduced a flowchart. A flowchart of what does it look like to incorporate calls, but also video text messages or text messages to a seller. I think that's one of the things that I would absolutely be doing if I was going after the expired marketplace. I'd be combining it with phone calls, but I'd also be combining it with text messages and maybe the odd video text as well. As creepy or weird as that ultimately sounds, I do think it shows a level of professionalism that most people are going to look at a video text message because it has your face on it versus another spam text message that is just words. So I want to go through a little bit of a sequence with you here just to give a bit of an understanding of what it all looks like. Because there's the initial call. What do you say on the initial call in order to get some interest? I don't think you actually need to worry about it that much. And the reason I don't think you need to worry about it that much is the volume of people that don't pick up the first time around now with spam and all of those things. I just think that the ability in order to actually get somebody on the phone the very first time you dial them is actually, I would probably go as far as to say that it's got to be less than 20%. Now, again, I'm having a wild guess at that, but it's got to be less than 20%, really, because I know I don't answer my phone. So at the end of the day, but the other thing that I don't do is that I don't answer my phone. And if somebody doesn't leave a voice message, I immediately assume spam. So that's one of the things that I want you to get in the routine of is leaving voicemails for people so that therefore, even if it's not set up, it's a really good way to practice your script. That was one of the things that a lot of people used to ask me is that did you used to use leave voicemails for people? The answer was yes. Maybe not every time. If it was an actual setup voicemail where the person was actually speaking, hi, you've reached Ben Brady from blah, 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 then I probably would leave a voicemail. And the reason I would is one, because I wanted to be legitimate in the sense that, hey, I was there. I was a genuine person. I wasn't spamming. I was just leaving them a voicemail in order for them to understand what I'm offering. But two, it was an opportunity for me to get back into the rhythm and the flow of my script, because if you're calling and calling and calling and calling and calling, you get through 20 phone calls, and ultimately, if you're clicking to dial or you're typing in the number or whatever you're doing it in a manual sense, is that could probably take you 30 minutes or so. And if you haven't gone through your script, you're probably a little bit rusty when someone picks up the phone. So I would leave a voicemail just to get that initial part of it. Now, the other thing that I would do is that if you were speaking to somebody, or sorry, if you were calling somebody, I would have that number on a rotation over a 7 to 14 day cycle where that number would get called 7 to 14 days in a row, or 7 to 14 days of my prospecting days in a row, just so that we knew whether or not it was there. Because I do believe that a lot of people don't take into consideration when you are doing cold prospecting the fact that if somebody picks up their phone, and they say hello or leave me alone or off or whatever it is, that's actually a positive sign that you have an actual credible name and phone number of somebody that owns real estate in your marketplace. I take that as a positive sign, and I really do believe that if somebody says no, or somebody says, no, I'm not interested, can you leave me alone? That is a very clear-cut indication of that they are in your marketplace, but it's validated data at that point. We all call numbers that we hope are right. Validating that data, I think you should see it as an absolute win. So making a note, maybe it's not now that you need to call them back. Maybe you put them on a rotation within a month's time and you go back to them. But then you know that it's a validated, certified number, tick of approval that person is a real person. That person owns that property, because you're probably going to, it depends on how you start your call. And I don't really know the ideal way to start a call. I've got to be honest with you, is that if you're going, I was never really good at pronouncing names and I'm not very good at reading. So I never went like, hey, is that Ben? Are you the I'm looking for the owner of 123 Smith Street. I was never good at the street names either. If they were a bit complicated, I didn't want to get it wrong. Hey, I'm looking for the owner of 123 Smith Street, or I'm looking for the owner of this, or hey, is that Ben Brady, or whatever it was. I was never really good at identifying that. But that being said, it probably is a good way to clarify it. Hi, I'm looking for the owner of 123 Smith Street. I think that's probably the easiest way to do it. I'm looking for the owner of John Street, or I'm looking for the owner of 123 Smith Street in this area that recently expired. Okay. And they might say yes, they might say leave me alone, whatever it is. But long story, if they pick up and they say something, then you know it's a validated number in the area where somebody's on the other end of the phone. And that's where, if they were being confrontational, that's where I would strive to clarify. Okay, so you're not the owner of 123 Smith Street. So if there were any offers that were presented on that property, or there was a buyer that was interested in that property, you are not the right person to call. And I would really go down that path just to try and clarify the numbers and get the clarity on the numbers. Now, all that to be said is that once you get into the phone call, I probably, just verbally processing this, I'd go down the path of that, hey, is that the owner of 123 Smith Street? Yes, it is. Great. I'm calling as another realtor, and I know that it's annoying. You've probably had a million phone calls from people offering you the same thing, but I do genuinely have something different for you. And shut up. And I try to get that out as quickly as possible. Hey, is this the owner of 123 Smith Street? Oh yeah, it is. It is. Hey, I'm just another realtor that is calling you, but I do have genuinely something different to offer you. And then they might make a smart remark, or they might make a remark that says, okay, look, I have a non-distress auction process that has been specifically designed to help people that have had their listings expire on the marketplace. We helped over 1,000 people in the last 12 months actually transition through this process of having a property on the marketplace, not getting what they want, and actually then moving it to a non-distressed auction and dealing in that. And just don't ask if it's something they're interested in. It's just an opportunity to actually give them something as quickly as you can. Notice how quickly this phone call can go. Ring, ring, ring. Hello? Hi, is that the owner of 123 Smith Street? Yes, it is. Hi, I'm calling as another realtor, but I do have a genuinely something different to offer you. Okay? Look, I have a non-distress auction process that we specialize in. My name is Ben Brady with Harcourts Auctions, or Harcourts. My name is Ben Brady with Harcourts. And I'm calling because our process has been specifically designed to help a property that was on the marketplace previously and that has expired. We've helped over 1,000 properties in the last 12 months in the exact same position that you're in, and know that we can genuinely help. And again, you're not asking if they're interested or anything along those lines. You're simply just trying to see if they would explore it a little bit more. And then if they don't respond, oh, okay, all right, great. I'd love an opportunity. Now, this is the next part in all of this. This is where, if you've had an opportunity to speak to them, this is where I think most of you are going to say that I'm wild here. I honestly think that you should strive to go on a Zoom meeting. And this is how I would phrase this, is that, hey, look, most agents are going to be asking if they can come over and set an appointment with you. I think that's a bit strange that a complete stranger is wanting to come over and look at your property. Okay. I think that an easier way to get to know each other is if we could set up a Zoom appointment. I could take you through the process within a quick 15-minute Zoom call and show you the process, see if you're interested in it, then we can choose to progress forward from there. Just so you know that I can deliver on what I'm telling you I'm offering. So, guys, I want you to embrace the Zoom meeting. I want you to embrace the Zoom meeting because, one, from a time efficiency perspective, I can't think of anything that was more time consuming than me when I first got to the North American marketplace and going out to listing presentations with agents that had absolutely no idea at all whether or not this seller was serious or not. Again, it makes my blood boil that the volume of time that was spent and wasted in that sense. So then I transition that if I'm a listing agent, what am I doing? I think a Zoom is a lower barrier to entry because, as you state, is that you are a perfectly good stranger asking to come into maybe one of their most personal environments that they'll ever invite somebody into. The reality is, let's just get them on a Zoom call and show them that you can deliver and have a point of difference. I think that is something that is a real opportunity to get more people. Now, guys, I do want to go into the follow-up process later on in another episode, but this hopefully gives you a bit of a snapshot of how maybe you can get a few more appointments by doing a Zoom call, by asking a few little questions, by clarifying the data. Take it as a win that the person on the other end of the phone is confirmed that they're the owner of that property. Even if they don't want to meet with you, that is an unbelievable win that you are clarifying data within your marketplace. You could have an unbelievable database. So that's the way that I would see it from an expired perspective. I'm going to be doing a next expired stuff. I'm going to be taking you through a flow chart. We're going to be offering it to you also in the show notes below of that next episode. Is what do you do if you can't get somebody on the phone, or you do get them on the phone? How do you incorporate text messages? How do you incorporate text videos? What do you say on those text videos? And what do you do in the call sequences and everything along those lines? We'll take you through step by step to give you a credited plan. But as you can see, this isn't any magical script or anything along those lines. It is providing a point of difference with auction, but it's also providing a lower barrier to entry just to get them on a Zoom call to take a progressive step in that relationship of hopefully trying to get their business. Hopefully this helps. So about 75% of our audience hasn't liked, followed, or subscribed to our podcast. It would mean the world to us, and it would help this podcast more than you know to expand our reach if you were to like, follow, or subscribe on any of the platforms that you're watching or listening on. Thanks again.